Okay guys, the next project for the SS is going to be the long tube headers from Kooks. Now, I got these approximately almost 2 years ago. I got these on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, back when I was supercharging the Corvette. So that car's been done for a year. Yeah, just over a year. So I guess it's not been 2 years. It's been a year and a few months. So I bought these and just put them in storage because, you know, I was supercharging the Corvette last year and didn't really have time to focus on 2 car projects at once. But I got these on Amazon because they were only $573. So let's take a look at these. And the reason they were so cheap is because it was Cyber Monday and I was tracking the price. These are normally $900 to $1,000 for the headers themselves, maybe $800, but I've been tracking these on Amazon, and I think Amazon knew I was watching them because I was watching them. They were at like $800. Some dropped to $700. Some dropped to $650. Some dropped to $600, and then it went below $600. I think it was like $570 something. It was that price during that Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend. So I went ahead and bought these, and I didn't go through any of the vendors that people have problems with. I'm not going to name names, but if you know anything about the G8 and the SS community, there's a company out there that buys headers. Well, they'll take your order, sit on your order for 60, 90 days, not do anything, and then they will take, you know, I think what happens is they wait to buy these headers in a group buy. They buy them from Kooks, and then they send them off to get coated, and then they send them to you. So you have to wait until they get a certain amount of people buying the specific headers that you're looking for. So I got these on Amazon. I got them in 3 days, and I didn't pay, maybe I paid shipping, I'm not sure, but it was probably like $600 with tax because I still had to pay sales tax on these. But for a third off of what these things cost, brand new directly from Kooks, you know, I can't complain about that. So this is going to be the driver's side header. So these headers are 1 7/8 inch in diameter. I knew I was going to go for big power, a decent amount of power when I bought them, so I bought the bigger size, so the 1 7/8 inch. And it's got that tail inside of that collector, devil tail, whatever they call it. I think it's to help with provide velocity and prevent turbulence, something like that. So that's inside there. They're stainless steel. Some guys get these coated. It's stainless steel. They'll turn brown, you know, with heat. The Corvette, you know, the parts of it are purple, parts of it turn brown. It's just what happens with stainless. They won't remain this color because as they get heat, they change color, kind of like where the welds are. So as they heat up, you know, they'll change color. That's fine. So this is the driver's side, and the tag should say SS. Chevy SS. Part number is 251-02400. That might be the left side. I'll have to see what the other side says, but anyway. So I've had the set I have on the Corvette. They bolted right in. I had zero problems with getting these things in. So that's the driver. Here's the passenger. Yeah, that 251-02400 is the part number. So here's the passenger side. Again, 1 7/8 inch has that same peak spike in the collector. And I really don't predict I'm gonna have any issues with these. So one header, there's 2 headers. Here's the gasket box. It has the bolts as well as the header collector bolts as well as the gaskets. Now, when I removed the headers on the Corvette, I actually just ordered another set of gaskets from Kooks. And I want to say I got it from Jags and they were probably 20 bucks, but you know, it's nice that they include these. The reason I couldn't reuse the header gaskets on the Corvette when I did the supercharger is because I ended up having, I bent one of these, and like, I was kind of concerned with it not sealing properly, so when I took the headers off the Corvette, I just replaced them. And you can buy these gaskets individually from Jegs. At least you could. I imagine you probably still can. So there's the gaskets, instructions. That's pretty much it for that stuff. And then you come down to the bolts. Now, Kooks has a partnership with Stage 8. I've actually never used Stage 8, so I don't know really what to think about them. I mean, I'm obviously going to use them for the collector gasket, where it meets up with the collector and the catalytic converter tube. I'll use that for those, but as for the headers themselves, I actually went ahead and ordered a set of ARP exhaust manifold bolts. Now, these are the same ones that I use on the Corvette. I got the same sided headers on the Corvette. I have not had any of these back out, and with these being ARP, I shouldn't have to replace these. So I'm gonna stick with the ARP. I'm sure the Stage 8 will work fine on the headers, but I'm just not, I don't really like the way they look. I know that sounds kind of weird, but because they have that stupid clip, and I know that clip is supposed to hold it in place, but I've had the Corvette, I've had those ARP bolts on the Corvette for over a year. I haven't had a problem, so I might actually end up just selling these. I'll see what I can see if I can sell them. But for the headers themselves, I'm going to use the ARP bolts. The part number for the ARP bolts is 1341202. I want to say these were 20 bucks. Maybe 20 or $30 for these, for the ARP bolts, which I'm okay with. Like I said, I'm just not, I've never used this brand. I don't necessarily trust them. ARP I've used before, not had a problem, so we'll go with that. But that's everything that comes with your Kooks headers. And you know, next will be the install. Okay guys, I have the SS on the ground. I'm going to start with, on this header swap, I'm going to start with the passenger side, just because it has less things to take apart, and I kind of want to do the easy side first. And then I work today, so it's already 4 o'clock, and I want to try to finish one side tonight, and I'll do the other side, you know, I'll have the full weekend to get to it. So I'm going to start by removing the spark plug wires. Then I'm going to pull the spark plugs, and then I'm going to disconnect the bolts from the cylinder head, and then I'm going to raise the car back up in the air and disconnect the J-pipe to the Corsa, as well as the O2 sensors that are down there. Now, the O2 sensor, the plug is somewhere behind the rear cylinder head. There's the back of the head, but I'm not sure exactly where the plug is. So that might be something, I've heard different things. I've heard you need to take the O2 sensor off the middle, the front O2 sensor. I've heard you have to take that off, and I've also heard you can just unplug it from the back of the cylinder head. But I'm really gonna have to get the car in the air for that part. But for this first part, we'll get the spark plugs and all that removed. Okay guys, as you can see, I have the Kooks header installed on the passenger side. When I had the car all the way, well, in the air to the first notch, I was simply able to slide the header up from underneath, and I just hung it on the starter and the air conditioner bracket. That gave me enough room to get out from underneath the car, drop the car back to the ground, and I was able to put one of the center bolts in just to, you know, get it tight, you know, enough room to where I could get one of the bolts in. I got it lined up and used one of the center bolts. And then I grabbed the gasket. I started on the front bolt, put the gasket in, tightened it a little bit. Then I took the bolts out, the center bolt out, grabbed the rear of the gasket, slid it down, lined it up, put the bolt in, tightened it down. Those were using the factory bolts. Then I grabbed my ARP bolts, and so as you can see, I have the ARP hardware with the bolts and the washer behind it. I put some anti-seize on each thread, and just so that I can always back these out. This took way longer than I want to admit, and I dropped a bunch of bolts down into the subframe, which I still have to fish out, but I'll get to that. So I torqued everything down. You start in the middle, it's 11 foot-pounds, starting the 2 bolts, then work your way out. So center, right, left, and then all the way to right, and then all the way left, so all the way to the back. Torque all those down to 11 foot-pounds, then you do the same thing, torque it to 15 foot-pounds, center, right, left, out, all the way front, all the way back. And that will get you torqued to your torque down properly. Now, I still need to put in the O2 sensor in the back. You can kind of see it way down there. But that O2 sensor is just dangling, so I need to put some anti-seize on that and tighten that into the header for the front. And then I'll be done with the side. But okay guys, today I'm going to be taking the driver's side exhaust manifold out. And to get started, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove the whole coil pack assembly. I think it's like 6 bolts and 1 main plug from the engine loom wire harness. Pull those out, pull all the spark plug wires out, then pull the spark plugs, and then I'll be able to get to the exhaust manifold itself. I've already disconnected it from the bottom, so it's not connected to anything. And I'm also going to have to pull the O2 sensors. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to disconnect the O2 sensor from under the car like I did the front. The back will just unplug, but the front, I'm just not sure yet, so we'll get to that. But let's go ahead and get this top end disassembled, then I'll move to the bottom. Okay guys, as you can see, this looks way different from the previous shot. I took out the coil packs. Those are held in with 10mm bolts. You're going to need a 10mm deep well socket to pull those out. There's 6 or 7 of them. Disconnect the harness, disconnect the 4 coil pack wires, go into the spark plug wires, and you can pull that out. I also pulled out the spark plug wires, twist them and then turn and pull. I also took out the stock intake. The reason I took out the stock intake is because I just want as much room as I can to get these headers in, and that intake was literally right here, so I was going to be fighting that intake the whole time trying to get these bolts out. So took the intake out. It's a 7mm socket. Just take the hose clamps off, loosen them up from the throttle body. There's one T30 bolt right here that's inside the air box underneath the air filter, so you got to take the lid off, take the filter out. And there's 2 10mm bolts, one right here, this stud, and this stud right here. Take those 10mm bolts out, and then you're also going to have to remove this red plastic trim. Just pull up on it, push the tabs in, and that red trim will come up, and that'll give you enough room to get the edge of the back of the airbox, from underneath this battery positive terminal wire. Pull that up, take that screw out, pull that terminal up. The airbox will come out. The airbox will come out in 2 pieces. You'll have already taken the top out to get to that bottom bolt. You'll take that out, and then for the throttle body, just pull forward towards you, disconnect the PCV valve, disconnect the MAF sensor from the tube, and that's it. And you'll gain so much more room. Now that I got that stupid air intake out, I can't believe how much room there is in this engine bay. Like, I didn't think there was this much room, but the Corvette engine bay compared to this, the radiator is up against the block, because it's angled. The steering rack is in about the same position, but the good thing about the Zeta chassis is I don't have to take the steering. Actually, that's the sway bar. The steering rack is actually under, but I'm not going to have to take that sway bar off to take the crank pulley off. I'll just be able to. You can just take that off. So it's just amazing how much room that they engineered into this chassis, and also this car comes with a V6 in Australia. Which is 2 less cylinders, so I imagine that engine ends about here, and you're gonna have like 12 inches between the engine block and the radiator support. So it's just kind of crazy how much room that the Zeta chassis has. So next, I'm gonna take the spark plugs out. It's the only thing I haven't done. And then I'm gonna take the top bolts out. And also, I'm gonna try to reach behind the intake manifold in the back of that cylinder head and try to disconnect that O2 sensor, but we'll see. I may have to raise the car up and loosen the sensor while the manifold is still attached to the car. I'll get to that in a second, but let's get those plugs out. Okay guys, I jumped ahead a little bit. I raised the car up in the air. I disconnected the rear O2 sensor, the plug. I just pulled the plug out. The front O2 sensor, I actually just did the same as the passenger side. I used my O2 sensor socket, got my ratchet wrench on there and socket wrench on there, busted it loose. I used a cheater pipe on the end of the wrench to give me a little bit more leverage. I was able to get that loosened up. And so the O2 sensor is just dangling there. It's off to the side. I probably will be able to reach up into the engine bay and unplug it from the driver's side. But the passenger side, that rear O2 sensor, it's just not long enough. I'm like half an inch short. So I need to go behind the motor, between the firewall and the motor. There is a plug that's pushed into a metal bracket on the back of the cylinder head. What I need to do is pop, it's a push pin. So what I need to do is pop that push pin, pull that push pin out, cut. So what I need to do is pull that push pin out, and I should be able to get that extra couple inches that I need. Actually, I don't even, like I said, I need like half an inch to an inch on the passenger side. The driver's side, there's actually, I might be fine with it. I don't know, I'll see. On the driver's side, on the transmission, there's a little plastic loom. I think if I do is I pop that loom, I'll be able to get enough slack to get the header, to get the driver's side to reach the long tube header. Now I haven't gotten the header in, obviously the stock manifold sitting on the floor resting against the firewall and the engine mount. And well, the steering shaft's there too, but that's not a big deal. Oh, I also disconnected the steering shaft, as you can see. I marked it with that silver marker. It's a 11mm bolt. I pulled I marked it first, pulled that bolt. So you see the two lines on the shaft itself and that line on the steering box, well, the steering rack. Just gotta line that back up when I'm done and we'll be good. People were worried about the steering wheel spinning. It hasn't moved at all, and I don't plan on it moving. Some people I saw them tie it down with a bungee cord and weird stuff. I really don't think it's necessary. So I'm gonna raise the car up, get that stock manifold out. I'm gonna undo that wire loom on the driver's side, and then I'm gonna fish the long tube header, that header right there, fish it up through the bottom, and I'll do as I did last time. I'll just get a bolt started. Probably I'll try the front one, and then I will fish the gasket in. Then I'll get the ARP exhaust manifold bolts, put some anti-seize on them, tighten those down, get all that tight, and then that'll be it for the header install. Okay guys, I had the car in the air, I took the old manifold out, I test fitted the new header. I roughly tried to put the O2 sensor in to where the header into the collector, and it was going to be short just like the passenger side. So I went ahead, and while I took the header back out, reached up behind the firewall, and there's a blue and black harness back there. I'm not even sure you can see that. You might not be able to see that. I removed it from its metal bracket that's connected to the back of the cylinder head. I just pulled on it, and the little push tab pulled out, and so that gave me all kinds of room that I'm gonna need for the driver's side. Then I fed the header back into the car, set it on the heat, there's a heat shield down there. I set it on the back of the heat shield. So basically the firewall and the engine mount, let it sit there, lowered the car back down. While the car was lowering back down, I stopped the car midair, probably like 6 inches off the ground, grabbed the header, I put one bolt up front, you know, the old factory bolt, just so that it had something to hang on to. Then I lowered the car all the way down. Now I'm going to install the gasket, the ARP exhaust bolts, and that should be it. Well, I need to do the O2 sensors for the driver. The driver's side will go on, but the passenger side, I don't know. We're gonna have to see what I'm gonna. I don't think I can get it from the bottom. Like, I stuck my hand up through the car, through the bowels of the car, and I can get to the wire, but I can't get to that plastic wire loom. I can't get to that plastic push tab, like the driver's side. Passenger side has the same setup. Couldn't get to it, so I think I'm gonna have to, you know, try to go in from the top and reach down. I just don't know how successful that's gonna be. So, but even if I had an O2 extension harness, I would still have to do the same thing to disconnect that O2 sensor. So I don't know, like that, the way I understand why they did that, because they have the engine transmission drive shaft, you know, in a cart. And so when they're at the factory, they can just assemble all that shit on the cart, and then it gets raised up into the car, which for manufacturing that makes sense, but for service it's pretty stupid, because, you know, you can't get to it. Like, even if I had tried to replace the O2 sensor, you'd still almost have to, you know, reach up through the car and get that bracket. So, okay guys, as you can see, the driver's side header's in. The bolts are all tight against the head. I haven't torqued them down yet. You need to torque them to 11 foot-pounds and then 15 foot-pounds, start in the middle, work your way out. Still need to do the O2 sensors on the bottom, and the passenger side I still need to figure out. But the driver's side is done for the you know, main part. Still need to do the O2 sensors like I just said. But overall, oh, and I also put the steering shaft back in and tighten the bolt down. Now I still need to find the proper torque spec for that. It's probably gonna be like 20 or 30 foot-pounds, but I'll be honest, I think the driver's side is way easier than the passenger side, just because you don't have the frames there, but you don't have the heater box or whatever you want to call this. I'm assuming that's part of the HVAC. It's not in the way. Like, you can see right here that whole left compartment, there's not a ton of room there. Plus the passenger side cylinder head is closer to the firewall, so you probably like an inch clearance. Over here you probably got like 2 or 3. So, you know, from what I was reading, they said that the passenger side was easier, but in my opinion the driver's side's way easier, just because there's less physical crap in the way. Now, maybe the coil packs still being on the passenger side were in the way. I really don't think so, but you know, I just took the extra 10 minutes to get the coil packs off, to get the intake out. You know, maybe that's why this driver's side seems so much easier, but just with a whole bunch of crap out of the way, that may have been the difference right there. I'm not really sure. So, but driver's side's done. Still gotta do the O2s. Okay guys, to wrap up the header install, for you to get that last O2 sensor on the passenger side, what I did was I took the coil pack brackets and all the coil packs off the passenger side of the head. You can reach your hand down behind the cylinder head and you'll feel the wire coming up from the O2 sensor. I simply unhooked the wire and I dropped the sensor. I'm just gonna end up ordering a O2 extension harness, plug that in, and we should be good to go. So that's pretty much it for installing the headers. Didn't really miss too much. Everything fit very well. I think the Kooks, I've had them on the Corvette, I haven't had any issue. This car, they fit, not real any major issue either. So, but I can't wait to get this thing tuned and all that. So I'll have future videos with how this thing sounds with the headers and the full Corsa catback. And that's gonna be it for this video. Thanks. Thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to like it, and if you haven't already, please subscribe.